All right, so I'm here with Ben from the Tezlab app. If you've been looking around and seeing any of the extra things you can put on your phone to kind of give you a little more info about your car, this is definitely one of them to look at, and one of my favorite. It occupies the bottom of my screen most of the time in the car. So Ben, happy to have a chat with you today.
Thanks for having me today. So you're using Tezlab then?
Absolutely. When they changed the software so that I couldn't totally full screen the web browser, it broke my heart. Because I always drove around with the dash on constantly.
Yeah.
That was my center screen, unless I needed to do something with music or whatever.
Isn't it? Yeah, isn't the dash awesome? I mean,
yeah. Like, that's your killer. To me, that's your killer feature, is the dash in the car.
Yeah. There are whispers of Chromium coming over to the car. I mean, we'll see.
Elon said it himself on Twitter, so we'll see when it happens, but...
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I mean, so if that is the case, the engineering, we've already talked about it, we'll rebuild it, so it'll be even faster, and we're talking about doing a Spotify integration, and there's a lot of cool stuff that we have planned for the in-car dash. The problem that we run into the in-car dash right now is that the way it's set up on the S and the 3 and the X with the new UI, it's like, well, with the S and the X, it's still pretty good. With the 3, it's tough because it's like there's no split screen.
Yeah, you have a completely different form factor too.
Yeah, so it's not quite. We're still working on a good solution there.
Yeah, because even if you've quote unquote full screen the browser now, it's not as good as when it was a true full screen. Because it was great because you had your immediate stats at the top, but then you could see I think it was like 5 or 6 trips you could see too on top of things.
Mm-hmm.
Or you could actually, I usually kept it on my efficiency is what I usually had it on. So, or what is it? The comparisons where you have the gas mileage saved, barrels saved, and all that.
Yeah, a lot of people like that one. We're going to also introduce relatively soon, like the big community features that people have been talking about, like, Tesla's near me. And so we'll probably put that in the dash too. So you can kind of see the other Teslas around you. You can see what their efficiency is going to, again, this is sort of hoping that Chromium comes over, and we can actually use like a really solid backend system to build it. Because we have a lot of really good ideas for what we could do there, but it's, the current setup, both the UI is not awesome right now, and also like the browser itself is terrible. Man, anyway, I'm glad you like the system. We get a lot of nice feedback on the system. I think right now Tesla's just the way that they have their UI set up right now, it's not great for it.
Yeah, and it's really interesting too because a lot of what you're like, they have their efficiency app that you can use, but the only time I actually use it is on my binnacle. I have it there. Only really because I just want to see when my acceleration and brake, my kilowatt usage when I'm doing that. I don't really use it for the efficiency piece. And it's funny because they have all this data at their disposal and they don't use it, and it takes talented folks like you guys to actually get some use out of it. Actually, the third party, all you guys out there, the third party apps, I love seeing what you're doing with all the data you get out of the car.
We have like tons of opportunity to do a lot more. It's just a question of, time versus features, right, versus, our usage is really high now. We're storing about 1 million sync events a day. And we're probably about 1 million sync events a day. So we spend a great deal of time thinking about security and then performance, and we're turning on a lot of cars each day. So there's a constant balance between making sure everything is tuned properly to like adding new features.
Yeah, I've enjoyed watching the fleet number slowly grow.
Yeah, it's going up there, man. It's happening.
So actually, one things I wanted to talk to you about too, because I haven't seen it. So your app is free, but if there's any way that any of us want to support you, is there a way to do that, or just get the car in there and that's all you're looking for?
Well, it's a fair question. It's one that we get a lot. We're very focused on a few things to start. One is if you go to our website, we have the mission, which is really like Tesla's mission, which is sort of accelerating the transition to sustainable transport. And I think that like our goal is to help Tesla achieve that through building really good, beautiful, software services for people that drive Teslas. And I think that like we're really focused on staying on that mission. We don't really want to spend too much time thinking about how we're going to make money yet. If people want to like give us donations, they absolutely can. We're going to have a link pretty soon that people can just donate to. I think long term, what we'll probably do, we get hundreds of requests about being able to store more data or download data. Probably what we'll do is we'll build out a very basic cloud system where people can have all access to their data.
Oh, that's a good.
They can download it, they can splice it. We'll give them tools to, so they can export it however they want and then store all their data forever. And we might charge for that just as like a cloud storage system. And we might do that in the future. We just haven't decided yet.
All right. Yeah, because I mean, being a creator and somebody that's trying to find a way to unobtrusively have people support me, I appreciate when someone's putting in work for something, and definitely want to support them where it's possible. So, maybe you guys could consider, if you don't do that, consider your own Patreon link or something like that, possibly. I don't know.
Yeah. No, it's not. It's not a bad idea. We've talked about doing a Kickstarter, a Patreon, something where people can, throw us a little bit of money. Like I said, we've got about 1 million sync events a day now, so our costs are certainly going up.
Yeah.
But we're, our mission is to stay very focused on building the best system we can for the drivers.
And speaking of that, then, so you guys have had a few new feature releases here recently. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so we do. We send out updates pretty frequently for bug fixes. Security is probably our number one priority right now. Just as our user base continues to grow, we work. We're in constant communication with our servers, with our database. We communicate from time to time with Tesla themselves. So we spend a lot of time updating just back-end performance security. And then we also do a lot with trip data. So we've added a lot of new trip data. We do a lot with phantom drain. We make sure that we actually spend like a great deal of time making sure we don't keep cars up, which is more difficult than people think, because actually what tends to happen, and you see these macro trends across the fleets, is that Tesla will roll out new updates to the car. And those new updates from time to time have bugs in them that keep the cars from going to sleep. So if you have even the Tesla app on your phone, or if you have another third-party app, we tend to see slightly higher drains. It's not necessarily because of the Tesla app or Tezlab. It's because the software that's on those cars is preventing them from going to sleep. And
Yeah.
so
As I say, I'm still at 2018.50.6. And
Yeah.
when I added that, one thing actually, I don't know if you've seen the same, but one thing I've noticed is that my car is typically, or not typically, but I've caught it a few times in a very deep sleep when I went to go get in it in the morning.
Yep.
And I had never seen that prior to that update.
Yeah. So we were talking to Tesla because we started seeing really big spikes in phantom drain. And this is actually just a good thing for the community to be aware of. So Tesla actually responded to us and said, we're aware of an update that has gone out that's preventing cars from going to sleep. You're going to see a much higher phantom drain. We're in the process of fixing it. And sure enough, like within a couple of days, they sent out a fix and the problem was solved. So it kind of goes both ways. Like we're able to see data across the fleet. Tesla from time to time will respond to us, and then we can disseminate that information down, and they change it. So it's actually like it's really helpful. It's very much akin to like an Android phone or an iPhone. They fix the bug, and so the feedback loop works really well.
It sounds like you have a pretty good relationship with Tesla.
I would say we have a good, yeah. I think that they support us. We would love to have even more access to the back-end systems, but they're moving pretty fast, so they're doing what they can to support us and other third-party developers. But yeah, and they're a great company to work with.
Yeah, one of the things that I was thinking about here, and actually, so two things. One, when you mentioned the Phantom Drain thing, I am terrible on the Phantom Drain side because I have like all the apps because I just play with everything. So yep. I've got like between Alexa over here, between you guys, between about 2 or 3 other apps, my car is constantly getting pinged. So if you look, I think I lose like 3 0.3 of a mile per hour, like constantly.
Really?
Yeah. When I looked at, shoot, I'm trying to remember where I saw this. Basically, I am in like the bottom 25% of people that are using a particular app for this. So one of these days, maybe I'll clean a bunch of stuff up, but I have an addiction and it's third-party apps.
Yeah. Well, we actually introduced a feature called night mode recently. To get back to your original, there were 2 main things that we built recently. Really good car controls, which we launched recently, and a feature called night mode. And what night mode does is it helps the car fall asleep more quickly, and it does not at all wake the car ever. And my hope is that other third-party apps kind of follow what we did, because I think it's just sort of helpful. You essentially flip on this toggle, and after 8 o'clock at night, we really do nothing. We do nothing to the car until 5 a.m. So I think that's really helpful. A lot of the community has widely recognized that as being helpful. But yeah, I mean, a lot of people have a lot of apps on their phone that will talk to the car that will, again, including the Tesla app, will from time to time prevent it from falling asleep. But we have such a big user base now that we really are very mindful and want to get ahead of it as much as possible.
Is there any thought about the ability to customize when that night mode runs? Because typically, at least for me personally, I actually do a fair bit of running at night as well.
Yeah.
Or possibly, and this might be a little bit more technical than maybe you want to get into, but the detection of when you're pinging the car, because I think I've seen that some apps will utilize the fact that your phone is moving at a given speed and then ping the car because you are moving at a given speed and validate whether the car is in drive or not. Because I worry that if you turn that on, that you might be missing some things. Because there was a hot minute where I had some issues with my Tezlab account, actually.
Yep.
And I have a whole couple weeks where I didn't realize I was having a problem. And then I went to look at something, like, oh shoot, this isn't working. And I had a swath of data that was gone. And I also am in IT, and I'm a stats dork. And I was crushed. I'm like, no, all that data.
Well, you should join our team. Yes, I mean, without getting into too much technical detail, I mean, we use the phone for a long, long time as a redundancy. We also use the phone as one of the touch points to check the car. We started relying a little bit more on the car to prevent more phantom drain. Even if you have, to answer your question specifically, even if you have it on night mode, we may miss part of the trip, but just the very beginning part of the trip, we have a system in place that would still be able to catch your trip, even if you have night mode on.
That's very good to know, because I just assume that 8 o'clock, boom, you're getting nothing from that. So that's very good to know, actually.
Yeah, no, we are. It is in fact quite a sophisticated system. So we have, I think, some of the stuff that's really interesting. We're going to start introducing crowdsource. We introduced our first crowdsourcing feature for superchargers. So now we have real-time data across all superchargers in the world, right? So, Yeah, so you can now go today, essentially, open up the app. You can go to the charging screen, and you can see the superchargers near you. And you'll see that a lot of them will have sort of just updated or 2 minutes ago. And so we now have real-time supercharging data down to the stall. And what we're going to be building very soon on top of that is what we're calling crowdsourcing supercharger data, which is essentially like, are there clean bathrooms here?
Oh, nice.
What are the restaurants like? And so we're going to have like all this really neat data when you plug in. It's going to start prompting you to start just answering these questions. And what we're going to do is we're going to start being able to have like a massive sort of list of information in regards to each individual supercharger. So you know that when you're going to go on a road trip, you'll be able to figure out exactly, what are the bathrooms like? Is there good food? Is it just gas station food? What stall, potentially gives you the best charge? Are some stalls broken? So we'll actually be storing like charge rate data per car. So we'll be able to figure out like consistently which stall will give you the fastest charge.
That'll be super useful for a couple reasons. One, so one of the nearby superchargers that I use on my route to work has been, mostly broken for the better part of the entire time I've owned my car.
Oh no, that's terrible.
So knowing that, having that information would be nice, because I definitely have been in the PlugShare app constantly updating. Stall 2A not working, still isn't working. Hey, now none of the A stalls work. So that's a good thing. And then the second thing I wanted to kind of highlight too, I think I actually did a Tidbits from the road where, because when I made my trip to Boston, I had a very kind of eye-opening experience because, being someone that really hadn't at that point taken many long-distance trips on the supercharger network, I had this kind of impression that every supercharger stop would have some sort of awesome, there'd be something to do at every one of them. And that's not necessarily the case. Supercharger locations are created equal. That is some are in a mall parking lot, and then you got a lot to do, and then others, like one I'm thinking about in particular, it's in the parking lot of a smaller grocery store chain that there is nothing else around, and unless you're going in there to buy food out of a box, that's about all you're going to get.
Have you seen the supercharging information yet?
I've not, actually. I got the basic stuff when you're plugged in that I've seen a couple times because I don't tend to sit in my car while I'm supercharging, so I might get a glance at it, really. But
if you look in your phone now, like if you go to Tezlab now and you go to the charging information screen, which is the track screen, and then you click charging information, you'll see superchargers near you now. So that's like phase one.
Yeah, I typically don't spend a whole lot of time in the phone app. Like for me, the dash in the car is where it's at for me. That's where I get the most value out of the app.
I hope that they make the change so that you can enable full screen again. And on the S, I hope that they start offering a split screen.
Yeah, I get what they did and kind of why they did it, because I think what they wanted to have that ability to have the media controls, just a mini bar whenever you wanted at the bottom at all times. And because I actually like that ability, but I'd rather be able to have my apps back the way that they used to be and then just overlay that mini bar on the bottom.
Are there other questions that you have for me?
I'm trying to think if I've got anything, because I wanted to cover anything you got that just came out. You already kind of covered anything that was going to be new, sort of on the horizon. Your crowdsource there, I think, is going to be pretty sweet when you get that rolled out.
Yeah. So, the other stuff, we'll have push notifications. So we'll be able to send you reminders that you're not plugged in if you're supposed to be plugged in, which is a big one. Mm-hmm. That's a big one. We're going to do shortcut for car controls into the profile page pretty soon. So you'll be able to like heat your car, cool your car, do a couple things right as shortcut keys. We're going to introduce road tripping. So, if you actually take like a road trip, we're going to start combining the trips so you can see them as a single view.
I'm looking forward to that, because you kind of already did that with the work and home locations there. That was kind of nice to see that show up there too.
Yeah, exactly. So we're starting to introduce those features. I think over the next 2 months, we're testing a lot of stuff right now to make sure it's at least stable enough for the beta. So those are going to start being like the new features. We're always looking to give more data to the user. Mm-hmm. We'll probably start showing, highest speed on each trip very soon. Just as like a nice little thing that we can graph very easily. And then, people can always email us features. We get a lot of email feature requests. Some things, unfortunately, like we literally would have to work with Tesla to do.
Right.
And
you don't own the platform. You can only do what they expose to you.
Right. And then there are other things that just are like, they take a lot of time for us to build. So it just takes time. And then, at this scale, making sure that it's not very buggy, releasing these things, there are a lot of moving pieces to make it work. So it can be hard sometimes to test.
When you mentioned the car controls, have you thought about doing it for either iOS or Android, doing a widget?
No, we have not. We have talked about doing Alexa skills.
That would be phenomenal, because I have actually, so I think I forget what the name of the skill is, but I've been using it, and if I could somehow integrate the authentication, because the biggest pain in the butt with the Alexa skill I have is that every so often my credentials expire, and then I have to go in and redo it, and I don't know what to say. The trigger words aren't necessarily intuitive, so I can say, Alexa, ask my car how far it can go, and then it'll wait.
Battery level is 90%. Range is 233 miles. Car has completed charging or charge limit has been reached.
But if I say, Alexa, ask my car what its charge is. Well, that's gotten better.
Charge limit is 80%.
Oh, so see, it gave you the charge limit, but not, it's really, I would love a better Alexa skill. How about that?
Yeah, well, you and a lot of other people. I mean, it's another one of those things that people have asked for. It's this balance between social features for the community, the people like the leaderboard, people like all those things, all the way down to, doing more data for the end user, better car controls.
Yeah, and your wheelhouse is the stats and the phone app. So that would be definitely a nice to have, because when you said that, I was like, oh, I didn't even realize that was something you might even consider.
Yeah, I mean, certainly. I mean, we really want to be. I mean, another example of that would be one of the things that sort of frustrates me about the Tesla community right now is that there's really no central forum for information. It's everywhere, and so there are conversations happening all over the internet, which is fine, but it would be great, since we have so many users now, to start saying, okay, Tezlab, we're going to offer groups, just like this is where conversations can happen. We can do integrations into your car. You can share things about your car more easily. Like, there's a lot of interesting things we can do already with our community that we think about doing. There's no reason why we can't do it. It's just a question of feature priority.
Right.
And Alexa skill kind of falls in that too. There's no reason why we can't do it. It's just a priority.
Yeah, it is kind of funny. It depends on where you hang out on the internet as to maybe what information you get. Because in the early days, when I was just a Model 3 reservation holder, 3 years ago or whenever that was, 3 years ago now. I hung out in the subreddit a lot, the Tesla Motors subreddit a lot, but now typically, and given that I have the show now and I'm kind of more of an established presence, I just kind of hang out on Twitter, and that seems to be seems to be what I do. And that's actually one of the things that, and I've definitely shouted you guys out quite a bit. Actually, I did today again, because someone was asking, hey, how many people have done 500 miles in a Tesla today, or since they've owned it, tweet it out and let us know.
Right.
So I did that, and I'm like, hey, stats courtesy of Tezlab app, because as far as stats go, like the trip information that you guys have, that is really really your wheelhouse right there. It's awesome.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I mean, I would say like we've got a couple really good beta testers, and I always seem to chat with you. Like, if you want to get on like the early beta stuff and help us and give us feedback specifically, I would love to. We could always use more help on that front. I would just say that like our mission that I think we really want to emphasize is like we are really trying to accelerate Tesla's vision by building the best product we can, right?
Well, and I would definitely say you are an especially in the car, you are an amazing companion to the car. Once I'm trying to remember it, because I've used the Tezlab app so long. Actually, I used you when you were still Tezlab instead of Tezlab.
Oh yeah, yeah. We can thank Apple for that.
I've used this app for so long, I can't remember not having it. Definitely, folks out there, if you've not heard of this app, definitely check it out. You will not be sorry. Get it installed and get that dash up in your car for sure.
Yeah, the dash is great. And just so you know, we will be pushing updates to the dash relatively soon. We're kind of waiting to see what Tesla pushes out first.
Yeah, because and that's the other funny thing too. So I'm on an AP1 car, so my updates come not nearly as fast as everybody else's updates come. So like I told you earlier in the call, I'm still on 2018 50.6.
Yeah.
So who knows when my next update's coming, because I can't take advantage of Sentry mode. Who knows if they're going to give me dog mode? So I don't even know if the sort of code train that AP1 cars are on is even going to include those things.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question. Or what do you have? What battery pack do you have?
85.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah, I was looking at the build date, because I was I think March 2015 was my car's build date. I was probably one of the last 85 packs that they built. Yeah.
Well, I had a P85D for 3 years that I leased, and then the lease was up, so I got the 100.
So you're rocking a Model S P100D now.
I sure am.
Nice. Yeah, I've said already. Actually, have you driven a so other non sequitur there? Have you driven a 3?
My buddy who's on our team, Ben Sullins, actually picked me up in California. We were out there for the boring event.
Okay,
that's the only time he and I drove around in his 3. That's the only time I've actually been in one. But I really liked it. It was great. I enjoyed it. He lowered it.
Yeah.
He did the whole thing.
It was kind of funny, because one of my followers on Twitter managed to. It was, again, this is when they were the 3s were still very rare, and he took a picture of it, and his is so unique. I was like, I think you found Ben Sullins, Mr. Teslanomics' Model 3 there, and then I side by sided another picture that Ben had posted. I'm like, yeah, I'm pretty sure that's you found Ben's Model 3.
No, that's so funny. Yeah.
Yep. So the reason I ask, so both of us being S owners, my next car will probably be a Model 3.
Nice.
Because I don't like the size of the Model S. I've driven small cars my entire life. I came from an 05 Honda Civic. Prior to that, I had a Pontiac Sunfire. I've always had a compact car, and the S is a big girl. And I like the interior on the 3 better too. I really like that super minimalist style.
The problem that I run into is kids. So I love. Well, I mean, the size of the S suits me just because of the family. If I didn't have the kids, I would probably get the 3.
So I've got we're a family of 4 here. I got a wife and 2 kids.
So you have 2 kids too.
Yeah, I don't see that. The only time that will be a problem, and the reason that kind of pushed me over the edge to get, because I got a CPOS, was the storage space. So 30 cubic feet versus 15 cubic feet, and we travel to Alabama every summer. So that's kind of a big deal, because that trunk is, or the frunk is merely a suggestion, and the trunk is much, much smaller. So it would definitely be something that I would miss the space, because I actually got to put my golf clubs in the trunk and golf in Alabama with my own clubs this year, because every year I go down, my wife's brother-in-law, I golf with him down there, and the ability to use my own clubs was a welcome one. But when I switched to a 3, that will be gone again.
Yeah, so that's the thing. I mean, I do mostly a lot of road tripping. And so it's nice to have the extra space to pile things in.
Absolutely. That will be the one thing I'll miss for sure.
So the S, I could see myself, maybe the next car would be a Y, maybe.
Well, that if our Subaru lasts that long, that will be my wife's next car, and we will probably use that for our road trips too.
Well, yeah. See, there you go. The thing is, in New York City, we only need one car here.
Right.
I mean, frankly, we don't really need a car, but we love a car. And in the summertime, we leave the city a lot, so we need to have a car. But yeah, but I hear you. The S is a big car. I mean, she's a wide girl.
Yeah, and I just I'll have owned her for 2 years in July, and I am still not used to the hood length on that, and I am still not used to trying to get into spots and stuff like that. I'm like, I like the car. I wouldn't trade her for anything other than a 3 or a Y. But I'm definitely used to the more nimble car. And actually, so I got a chance to, I don't know if you've seen if you check my Tidbits from the Road videos, I did a video with Nick Hoffman, who's down in Columbus, and I got to drive his Performance 3, and that was fun. And it's just, despite not having the air suspension or anything like that, it just seems to be a more nimble car than the S is, and that's really what I like about it.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, there's the performance is fun. I mean, I certainly get that with the P100D. That's really fast, but
yeah, I got to be in a P100D on a ludicrous launch once. My brother-in-law. We went down and he test drove one, and actually it was on a little bit of a wet, because it was drizzling that day. It was on some wet tarmac, and he hit that thing, and it's the only time I've ever felt a Tesla spin, and it didn't spin much. And even that, like, he was like freaked out about it. He's like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa!"
Yeah, I mean, those things really move.
I would love to have that kind of performance, because mine. I actually did a 0 to 60 run on mine the other day, and I think I do it. I didn't have good state of charge, because I think I was down like near 30% or something like that, but I think I did 4.8.
Yeah, it's still pretty good.
Which is still the fastest car by an order of magnitude that I've ever owned. And that's saying, because I owned a 94 Pontiac Firehawk with a big old 350 LT1 engine in it. And that car would not touch my Model S, not even close.
Yeah, no, not even close. Yeah, it's yeah, that's still really good. We're gonna, speaking of getting back to Tezlab, we'll probably get to a point relatively soon where we're gonna start doing segments. So we'll start doing like supercharger to supercharger segments as an idea. So you'll be able to start seeing like who's driven the most efficient from one supercharger to the next supercharger.
That speaks to me, because I am an efficiency dork for sure.
Right. And like, who's done the least efficient, for instance.
Who is speeding?
Right. So we'll start doing like segments, and I think we'll start introducing segments from supercharger to supercharger as like the first thing to do. And I think that'll be really fun. If we are playing around with the ideas of being able to capture 0 to 60 speeds on your phone using the phone app, which I think people would like. So there's talk of actually building in, what has been your fastest 0 to 60 recorded.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So doing more stuff like that over time is another part of the roadmap that we talk about.
It was good talking with you. It's like I said the other day, it's been a year in the making.
Yeah. It's my fault. I'm sorry about that.
Well, and equally mine too, because we've had a couple of times where work got in my way. All right, cool.
All right, man. Well, have a great day, and I will be in touch soon.
Awesome. Thanks a bunch.
Okay, man. See you
Later.